office from Alessandro Calabro concerning the work plan on the Mediterranean cooperation, research, and innovation. And it's an important step, as you mentioned, the ministerial conference, and I hope that we'll be able jointly with our members to contribute to the success of the final declaration of this ministerial meeting. Thank you very much again, and we will see you surely soon in another Unimed occasion and surely in Brussels. Thanks again. Ciao. It's me again. Some instruction, first of all, for the coming speakers, for the keynote speeches that we have now. This yellow paper means that you have the last 2 minutes. The red one means that it's over, okay? I'm so sorry, but we have a very long day, and tomorrow another day, and I think that it's important that you stay in your time, also for yourself, of course. And I invite now on the stage, as been mentioned by the intervention of Ms. Cristina Russo, the Ambassador Amparo Albacete from the Union for Mediterranean, which is Deputy Secretary General of Higher Education and Research at the Union for Mediterranean. This way is better. We have a very, very important cooperation with the Union for Mediterranean. We support in some way what they are doing, and we count on their own, obviously on their own support for what we are trying to do with in our network. And the Union for Mediterranean is now participating in several Unimed activities from many, many years. Please, Dr. Albacete, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. En esta espiral de trabajo que yo juzgo a veces excesiva, que nos lleva a viajar de un país a otro constantemente, haciendo intervenciones en varios idiomas, pero en el 99% de los casos en inglés, no he tenido en cuenta que hoy aquí podía hablar en español, así que me he preparado mi intervención en inglés. Pero creo que para mí es un deber hablar hoy en español, y por eso lo voy a hacer en español, a pesar de tener mis puntos de intervención preparados en inglés. Es un deber y también es un placer, porque soy muy patriota de mi lengua y no tengo muchas oportunidades de hablar en español en estos foros internacionales. Así que, con todos los inconvenientes que eso representa para mí hoy, por haber preparado la intervención en inglés, voy a hacer el esfuerzo de traducirlo sobre la marcha al español. ¿No se oye? ¿No hay traducción al inglés? Ah. Bueno, pues voy a terminar mi speech en español y ahora empezaré en inglés. No way. So I have to speak in English, even if I'm in Granada, even if I'm in Spanish, and even if I'm among many friends who speak Spanish. Unfortunately, I have to speak in English. Well, anyhow, that is understandable, and I will proceed in English. I was saying that I never had the opportunity to speak in Spanish, and I wanted to take advantage of that privilege today to do so in Spanish, but unfortunately, eventually, I have to do it in English. So I will take my glasses, because before I was going to improvise my intervention in Spanish, but in English I have to read. So thank you, Cristina Russo, for mentioning the collaboration with the Union for the Mediterranean. For us, the European Commission is not another organization, but the same organization as the Union for the Mediterranean, as we work together in those areas, and we receive the main sources, we receive the same political support, as the European Union is the co-president of the Union for the Mediterranean. So we are speaking the same language and we have the same, let's say, patrons. So thank you, Cristina Russo. We continue working together, and for us it's an honor to work with you. Also, I'm extremely pleased to be here with you today, as Unimed is a key partner at the Union for the Mediterranean, a partner who has contributed greatly to academic dialogue, being a bridge between Europe and the southern and eastern shores of the Mediterranean at the service of peace and younger generations. We are convinced that regional cooperation in higher education and research plays an essential role in achieving an inclusive and sustainable development in the Mediterranean, especially for our younger generations. Indeed, among others, it contributes to increase employability and promote intercultural dialogue. In many areas of the world, decades of study exchange program and joint research initiatives have created a sense of belonging to the international community. The Erasmus Plus program, in particular in Europe, has proved to generations of students the value of studying abroad. These positive results call for a stronger internationalization of Euro-Mediterranean higher education systems, a process which should not be a goal in itself, but a means to enhance the quality of education and research. The Union for the Mediterranean promotes regional dialogue on higher education with the purpose of facilitating continuous peer learning among our member countries on policies and practice addressing common challenges. In this occasion, I'm delighted to communicate that the first Union for the Mediterranean Ministerial Conference on Higher Education will be held on the 8th of November in Morocco at the Unimed University of Fez. I would like to thank Unimed for having alerted policymakers to the importance of organizing such a meeting, both through the recommendations of the report of the internationalization of higher education in the Mediterranean, which was commissioned by the Union for the Mediterranean, and the 2021 call for convening a new Euro-Mediterranean Ministerial Conference on Higher Education. We believe that it is very timely to hold a ministerial conference on higher education, something that has never happened under the Union for the Mediterranean framework, given the high interest in cooperation on this field in the Euro-Mediterranean area. The new ministerial declaration will need to take stock of the many developments since the Cairo Declaration of 27 and make them visible, but it will be even more important to lay the basis for our future cooperation in light of many current developments that are changing the higher education landscape. This ministerial declaration, supported by all the UFM member states, will establish clear priorities for cooperation in the Euro-Mediterranean region. It will start being discussed during the first meeting of representatives from the ministries in charge of higher education, which will be held tomorrow in Alicante. In the field of higher education, stakeholder involvement is of a paramount importance, as our cooperation cannot be purely intergovernmental. While we can create the conditions for it and support it, in the end, it relies on individual universities, professors, and students who are eager to engage in it. That is why, in preparation of the ministerial, the UFM Secretariat, in cooperation with the two co-presidencies, the European Union and Jordan, launched a public consultation. The public consultation targets the main higher education stakeholders, especially institutions and networks, It dealt with the achievement and challenges of regional cooperation on higher education and was aimed at identifying concrete proposals for future. We received more than 100 responses from all the main regional networks of universities and higher education institutions. And we want to thank the Unimed as a network and its member universities for the extremely relevant contributions you have submitted. The conclusions of these consultations will certainly inspire the declaration, as they are related to relevant topics that will be addressed by our ministers: governance, internationalization, inclusive approaches in higher education, including the gender dimension, digital education, innovative green approaches to higher education and sustainable development, and shared fundamental academic values. Without precluding the content of the future declaration, these are the areas where we see more added value in engaging with the UFM on higher education at this moment. The results of this consultation will be presented tomorrow in Alicante at the meeting of representatives from ministries in charge of higher education, as well as the stakeholders meeting that will be organized the day after, in which a group of representatives from Unimed member universities will participate actively. This stakeholders meeting in particular is aimed at discussing the conclusions of the public consultation and at making visible the expectations and necessities of universities, so that they may be duly reflected in the final ministerial declaration. I would like to underline some ideas which are currently being discussed by the UFM member states on three main areas: internationalization, governance, and digital education. On internationalization, to incorporate comprehensive internationalization strategies as a governance tools for universities, focusing not only on numbers, but also on quality standards, and to ensure opportunities for all, including those not engaged in physical mobility. To further develop and use the transparency and quality tools necessary for advancing mobility and facilitating recognition. We are very much aware, in particular, of the obstacles that represent some lengthy visa procedures and the efforts being made to facilitate the credit and recognition for those visas. On the area of governance, to promote institutional strengthening, to ensure a more effective management, and to reinforce the university's role in an increasingly challenging environment. Also, to adopt approaches for involving stakeholders in governance, especially employers and alumni, and developing digitalized procedures. And to further promote collaborative and structural projects in this area to enhance an efficient, inclusive, and participatory governance involving academics and students with a good gender balance. Eventually, on digital education, to further develop virtual exchanges and blended intensive programs, as well as cooperation projects that support the digital transformation plans on higher education institutions as an important vector of innovation and creativity, including the need to adopt approaches with a learning offer of digital skills that is both general and sector specific. Stakeholder involvement will not stop with the consultation and the meeting in Alicante. The ministerial conference will include a space for participation of stakeholders. Indeed, a side event to the ministerial conference is scheduled to take place one day earlier, on the 7th of November, in the same place, the Unimed University of Fez. This event will help to showcase existing best cooperation practices and to pave the way towards future activities linking stakeholders from both sides of the Mediterranean. Of course, all the agreed priorities that will be identified in the ministerial declaration should to be duly implemented and a follow-up mechanism put in place. We do count on you for the implementation of the recommendations and priorities adopted in the ministerial declaration. Thank you, all of you, and I wish you a fruitful discussion in the Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alvaro, also for giving that you didn't give me the opportunity to use these papers. I will comment your intervention during my final speech of the day. I invite now on the stage Giovanni Romani, Head of Middle East and North Africa Political Affairs and Security Policy Division at NATO. As you know, we presented last year our framework of cooperation with NATO. We are discussing about how to launch some common initiative, because obviously we are discussing with the research dimension of NATO. They have a research program. They would like to sponsor PhD students on security issues and so on. It's a nice conversation and also very curious conversation among institutions like NATO and a small network like Unimed, but I think that at the end they will join us in some case. Thank you, Giovanni. The floor is yours.
Thank you. And I'm really delighted, Marcello, to participate to this General Assembly. Actually, together with two colleagues from the NATO hub from the south, which are here with me. And so thank you and to the Unimed leadership for the invitation, but also and above all for the opportunity to bring the theme of security to this audience and to provide the NATO perspective in a context where misinformation, fake news, and bits and pieces taken from social media can actually shape the public opinion about issues which are actually very complex and need for people to go more in depth than maybe a picture seen on a social media. So your theme this year revolves around peace and security, as you can see here from the banner. And indeed, we are in a quite exceptional context today. We face the most serious threat to Euro-Atlantic security in several decades. We face a brutal and illegal war of aggression launched by Vladimir Putin against Ukraine, which has shattered the European peace and security order that we actually have worked tirelessly for decades to build. Ukrainian forces are resisting and pushing back the Russian invader with extraordinary bravery and courage. But the Kremlin seems determined to go even further. Allies and NATO itself will continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. At the Madrid summit last year, we have taken important decisions. On Ukraine first, we have firmly established that this country, like all the others, has the inalienable right to self-defense. It's self-guaranteed by the Charter of the United Nations to which UN members have subscribed. Ukraine also has the right to respect for its sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence. All of these rights have been violated by the Russian Federation since 2014, and even more visibly, of course, since February 2022. The Allies have deemed it imperative to continue to assist Ukraine militarily, in particular by providing additional air defense assets. I underlined allies, not NATO as such, The coordination of military supports provided by NATO countries and their partners is ensured by the contact group for Ukraine. This assistance is a game changer on the battlefield and helps Ukraine liberate its territory and people. As you know, at the Madrid summit last year, Finland and Sweden took the historic decision to join the alliance. NATO has always been holding the principle that each country has the right to choose its alliances and to decide on the arrangements to be made to ensure its security. Finland and Sweden are exercising this right. And also, this counters the narrative of spheres of influence, which at times we hear from Russia. So, from a NATO perspective, every country has the right to decide on its future. We've also taken the decision to fundamentally adopt the deterrence and defense posture of the whole alliance to face this new security reality in the wake of the unjustified aggression of Ukraine. As you will have understood, NATO will remain united, determined to defend and protect every inch of allied territory, and this is a purely defensive approach. NATO doesn't see confrontation and poses no threat to Russia. The alliance has a defensive vocation and will continue to work for peace, security, stability throughout the Euro-Atlantic area. And it's our responsibility to ensure that the conflict does not spread. As brutal as it is, with immense human suffering, you understand that the conflict is still a war between two nations. And NATO's actions have been very measured, very cautious, to minimize the risk of escalation and expansion of the war, which actually would imply a nuclear powers confrontation. So that's why NATO has been acting with a lot of sense of responsibility to make sure that this does not happen. So in Madrid, the allies also decided to adopt a new strategic concept to take into account the major security challenges of our time, and to chart the course to adapt to respond effectively to these new challenges. If you read the last strategic concept, 2010, it actually starts by saying that the Euro-Atlantic region is a peace. It doesn't mention China and considers Russia as a partner. So a lot has changed, and we had to actually adopt a new concept. On the southern flanks, the heads of state announced a new defense capacity building package for Mauritania. This reinforces NATO commitment to its partners in the region, following the increased support we already provide to Jordan, Tunisia, and Iraq, where NATO is heavily engaged with hundreds of personnel in Baghdad in an advisory mission. So we are indeed convinced that all the challenges on the eastern flank of the alliance should in no way limit our work with our partners in the south. And the security of the countries in North Africa and Middle East remains undeniably linked to that of the Euro-Atlantic zone. It is tackling global and regional security challenges together that we can continue to ensure peace, prosperity, and security in respective territories. So indeed, we face a complex and constantly evolving security environment. We're all victims of the destabilizing effects resulting from the situation in certain fragile countries, the rise of violent extremism, the actions of transnational terrorist groups, and illegal trafficking, weapons, drugs, the action of mercenaries. This adds up to the consequence of climate change, which has been mentioned, tensions and conflicts around the exploitation of energy resources, food insecurity. This all adds up to the risks in the region. We're also very concerned about the deterioration of the situation in many countries in the Sahel and the expansion of threats towards the Gulf of Guinea. All these factors are as many challenges for North Africa and for NATO member countries as well. That is why NATO has adopted an ambitious policy of partnership. NATO's commitment to the south of the alliance is not new. The alliance has two frameworks with the partners in the south. One is called the Istanbul Cooperation Initiative, which dates back to 2004, with the 4 Gulf countries, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE. And then the Mediterranean dialogue may be even more relevant for this audience, a partnership which was created almost 30 years ago with Mauritania, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, Israel, and Jordan. So with these countries, with these partners, the 30 allies periodically actually get together to exchange views on regional security challenges on the MENA region. And this helps all of us to improve our common understanding of the security environment and the cooperation on shared challenges. At the request of partner countries and in close collaboration with them, we agree on individual cooperation programs, which are bilateral NATO plus one partner, to support them in developing capacity for national defense institution building so that they can better tackle their security challenges with the support of NATO. We do this with training education, for example, participation to NATO exercises, defense capacity building packages, and we're also looking into new areas of cooperation such as climate change. So among these areas, the fight against terrorism is of crucial importance for us, and NATO plays a full part in this, trying to cooperate with the MENA countries in this field. So to conclude, and so I can avoid the red card in my last minute, the strategic concept that NATO has adopted assigns three fundamental tasks to NATO. The first is deterrence and defense. It's about defending the territory and the population of NATO countries. The second is crisis prevention and management, and the third one is cooperative security. So the last two pillars relate to our engagement and cooperation with partner countries, particularly those in the immediate neighborhood, like Middle East and North Africa. So cooperative security is key for this to contribute to stability outside the NATO territory, support security within the borders, as well as help deliver on NATO's other fundamental tasks. Consider that NATO is not just a group of allies, it is actually a community which expands to our partners, which become members of this community. As I mentioned at the beginning, it is crucial for NATO to communicate to the civil society about our values, about our objectives, about our actions. This is both within our member states and with the partners. And the academic world, universities, have a fundamental role in forming the future leaders. Those who, and I quote the President's words at the beginning of the morning, those who will reinvent the world. It is, of course, a two-way street where this engagement between institutions and the academic work is key, and your voice must be heard, because your contribution is very important to actually shape ideas and possibly even policies. So institutions like NATO need to actually create, multiply, leverage opportunities for interaction with you, for dialogue, for exchange of views, and for cooperation, as Marcello was mentioning. So that's why I welcome this opportunity, as well as many others that I hope will present in the future. Let me just mention to close that the NATO Hub in Naples has been organizing events of this kind in 2021 with the University of Bari, and in 2022 as well, on women's role in the radicalization and the rehabilitation in the MENA region, and human trafficking and women refugees. In 2023, they will now, they're working on a project also with the University of Tunis on women leader in Libya and Tunisia. So I invite you to leverage all these opportunities and to strengthen our dialogue and interaction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Giovanni. It's nice to see that as so relevant speaker as the anxiogen dimension of my yellow and red card. Thanks, in any case, for your speech and for being time. I invite now, we move from security issues to something that touched all of us, the impact of the earthquake and the disaster in Turkey and in Syria. I invite on the stage our Dr. Aydin, President of University of Aydin. Istanbul.
I am afraid Marcello, in front of on the table, yellow card and the red card. What I do, I don't know.
But I know that you will be perfect on time. But if in case, I'm so sorry, I will use it.
Öncelikle çok değerli Unimed Başkanı'na, değerli Genel Sekreterine ve değerli siz katılımcı arkadaşlarımıza İstanbul Aydın Üniversitesi Mütevelli Heyet Başkanı olarak saygılarımı sunuyorum. Tabii ben bugün burada depremi sizlere anlatacağım. Türkiye yaklaşık bir ay önce afet değil belki küçük kıyamet olarak nitelendireceğimiz büyük bir depremle karşı karşıya kaldı. Sözlerime başlamadan önce şu anda burada ülkelerini temsil eden siz değerli üniversite akademik personel kanalıyla depremde ülkelerinizin Türkiye'ye karşı göstermiş olduğu yakınlığı, ilgiyi, alakayı, kardeşliği ve dostluğa karşı minnettarlığımızı ifade etmek istiyorum. Ülkem adına, Türkiye halkı adına. İyi ki varsınız diyorum. Hepinize şükranlarımı sunuyorum. 6 Şubat'ta Türkiye'nin yaklaşık 7'de biri, yani bir başka deyişle İngiltere kıtası kadar büyüklüğündeki bir toprak parçası ve yaklaşık da 14 milyon insan büyük bir felaketle karşılaştı. İlk önce 7.7'lik bir deprem gece saat 04 sularında oldu. Gece olduğu için insanlar pek fazla onu fark edemediler. Ancak ertesi gün, yani bir sonraki gün ikinci bir deprem oldu. 7.6 büyüklüğünde bu depremle beraber artık küçük kıyametle Türkiye karşı karşıya kaldı. Biz buna asrın felaketi diyoruz. Hemen bu felaket karşısında, yani bunun büyüklüğünü, insanların ne halde olabileceğini buradaki bütün arkadaşlarım tahmin edebilirler. Oraya fazla girmek istemiyorum. Ancak bütün bu felaket karşısında Türkiye çok hızlı bir şekilde organize olarak gerek sivil toplum kuruluşlarıyla, gerek kamu kuruluşlarıyla, gerek bakanlıklarıyla, gerek arama kurtarma ekipleriyle hızlı bir şekilde organize olarak bölgeye arama kurtarma ekipleri, yardım kampanyaları, hava ulaşım köprüleri, tahliye alanları, denizden ulaşım imkanları, bütün bunları hayata geçirerek nasıl oradaki acıyı daha aza indirebilirizin çalışması içerisine girdiler. Tabii bebeklerden 122 saat sonra yaşlı insanlara varıncaya kadar bir canı daha nasıl kurtarabiliriz diye büyük bir arayış içerisine girdiler. Ve 122 saat sonra yaşlı bir kadın enkazdan çıkarıldığında şöyle sordu: acaba dünya var mı? Arama kurtarma ekipleri evet teyze, evet hala, dünya var diye cevap verdiler. Tabii ki dünyanın neresinde olursa olsun bu kadar büyük bir felaket, 14 milyon insanın etkilenmesi, İngiltere kıtası kadar büyüklüğündeki bir arazi, dünyanın neresinde olursa olsun muhakkak ki bir takım eksiklikler olabilecekti. Çünkü beklenmeyen bir felaket oldu. Ama buna karşın yine Türk Silahlı Kuvvetleri'nin hem hava kuvvetleri, deniz kuvvetleri, jandarma kuvvetleri, bütün bireyleri sahaya indiler. Sivil toplum kuruluşlarıyla beraber nasıl daha faydalı olabiliriz diye ciddi bir çalışma yapıldı. Ve Türk Hava Yolları ücretsiz olarak bölgeden tahliyeleri getirmeye başladı. Türk Kızılay'ı afet çadırları kurarak, hem kan bağışları yaparak, hem aşevleri kurarak, konteyner kentler kurarak, çadırlar kurarak oradaki insanların acılarını azaltmaya çalıştık. Tabii bunların hepsi her deprem bölgesinde insanların yaşayacakları bir olay. Bunu baştan alacağız yalnız, bunu kim kaydırıyorsa. Peki biz bu tür olaylar karşısından neler yapmamız gerekir? Ne tür tedbirler almamız gerekir? Belki bugün ben sizlere birazcık aktarmam gerekir. Bu dünyanın her yerinde olabilir. Şu anda bile içerisinde bulunmuş olduğumuz Granada kentinin zaman zaman fay üzerinde olmamakla beraber zaman zamanın 4 veya 5 şiddetinde sallandığını buradaki arkadaşlarımız bize aktardılar. Dolayısıyla dünyanın birçok yerinde karşılaşabileceğimiz bu afet karşısında neler yapılabileceği konusunda belki sizlere onu birazcık aktarmam gerekebilir. Depremde neler yapılacağından öte depreme hazırlık her şeyden çok önemli. Deprem eğitimi çok önemli. Ailedeki deprem eğitiminden, okullardaki deprem eğitiminden, sivil toplum kuruluşlarındaki, kamu kuruluşlarındaki, yani bir seferberlik anlayışı içerisinde komple topyekün depreme hazırlıklı olmamız lazım. Yani biz depreme karşı kendimizi nasıl koruyabiliriz? Bunun da temelinde eğitim yatıyor. İşte bizler akademisyenler olarak bu eğitimi verebilmemiz lazım, yapmamız lazım. Bizler tabii bu depremle alakalı üniversitelerde şu anda dersler koymaya başladık. Depreme karşı bireyin kendini nasıl koruyabileceğini, ailesini nasıl koruyabileceğini, depremde en az hasarlı nasıl insanların kendilerini muhafaza edebileceklerini, aynı şekilde liselerde, aynı şekilde ilköğretim okullarına varıncaya kadar bu eğitimleri biz indirmeye başladık ülke olarak, Türkiye olarak. Fakat tabii asli olan böyle bir felaketi yaşamadan önce bu çalışmaları hayata geçirmek gerekir. Onun içindir ki eğitim kurumları depreme karşı insanın kendi hayatını koruması için önce binaların nasıl yapılması gerektiği konusunda. Çünkü hep biliyoruz ki deprem insanları öldürmüyor. Depreme dayanıklı olmayan binalar, depreme uygun olmayan zeminde yapılan binalar insanları öldürüyor. Yoksa deprem bunun önüne geçmek mümkün değil. Burada belki Unimed'in de bu konuda ciddi çalışmaları var. Barış ve güvenlik için akademik ittifaklar ve bu çerçevede yapılacaklar çalışmalar doğrultusunda hep birlikte bu eğitimleri üniversitelerimizde, diğer üniversitelerde de, Akdeniz Havzası'ndaki ve diğer bölgelerdeki üniversitelerde de bunları ortaya koymak suretiyle riskleri olabildiğince aza indirebiliriz. Tabii burada zamanı iyi değerlendirmek adına, yani gerek illerde, gerek ilçelerde, gerek kamu kuruluşlarında depremlerle alakalı, afet yönetimiyle alakalı birimlerin oluşturulması, bu birimlerin kendilerini hazırlamaları, o kurumda çalışanların hazırlıklı hale getirilmeleri ancak bu tür depremler karşısında bu riskleri asgariye indirebilirler. Medyanın burada çok önemli bir rolü var, değinmeden geçemeyeceğim. Çünkü medya eğitim bakımından, halkın eğitilmesi bakımından çok önemli bir görev üstlenmektedir. Tabii üniversitelerde her alanda olduğu gibi özellikle kendi içerisinde üretmiş olduğu deprem eğitimini, depremlere karşı, doğal afetlere karşı ne tür önlemler alınması gerektiğini, nasıl alınması gerektiğini, neler yapılması gerektiği konusundaki çalışmalarını eş zamanlı olarak üniversite içerisinde üretip toplumuyla paylaşması lazım. Kamu kuruluşlarıyla, yöneticilerle, siyasi iktidarla üniversiteler üretmiş oldukları bu bilgileri paylaşması lazım. Bu kuruluşlara öncülük yapması lazım, danışmanlık yapması lazım. Burada daha fazla zamanı iyi kullanmak adına İstanbul Aydın Üniversitesi olarak, in the beginning it is possible to Marcello, in the beginning the presentation please, in the beginning, yes, continue. İstanbul Aydın Üniversitesi deprem anında ne yaptığı, belki bir üniversitenin depremde ne yapması gerektiği konusunda belki bir örnek olacaktır. Onun için müsaade ederseniz, continue please in the beginning. 2 dakikalık bir prezentasyonu sizlerle paylaşmak istiyorum. Continue please in the beginning. Please. Continue. It's the number one. It's okay. First of all, öncelikle üniversitenin içerisinde bir deprem kriz masası oluşturduk. Deprem kriz masası oluşturulduk. Yani öğrencilerimizden, onların yakınlarından, tanıdıklarından deprem bölgesinde herhangi birisi varsa buraya gelsin, tanışsın, oradan fikir alsın diye. Continue please. Hemen akabinde arama kurtarma ekipleri oluşturduk. Üniversitenin içerisinde arama kurtarma ekipleri oluşturduk. Arama kurtarma ekibini yaklaşık 30 kişilik bir ekibi üniversitenin kendi araçlarıyla deprem bölgesine gönderdik. Hemen bunun akabinde büyük bir kampanya başlattık. Özellikle bu kampanyayı öğrenci kulüplerini devreye sokmak suretiyle öğrenciler arasında, çalışanlarımız arasında deprem bölgesine sevk edilmek üzere yiyecekler, içecekler, burada görmüş olduğunuz bütün malzemeleri tedarik ederek, kolileyerek, bunları sınıflara ayırarak tırlar halinde deprem bölgesine sevk ettik. Ve bu yardımları devam ettirdik. Bu yardımları devam ederken deprem bölgesinde hangi ürünlere daha çok ihtiyaç varsa o ihtiyaçlara yönelik çalışmalar yaparak onları deprem bölgesine sevk etmeye başladık. Yine büyük bir kampanyayla kan verme kampanyası başlattık. Bu görmüş olduğunuz resim üniversitenin içerisindeki bir kan verme kampanyası. Yine burada öğrenci kulüpleri çok etkin ve aktif rol aldılar. Üniversitemizin, İstanbul Aydın Üniversitesi'nin tıp fakültesi kanalıyla yoğun bir kan verme kampanyasıyla bu çalışmalar yapıldı. İstanbul Aydın Üniversitesi'nin tıp fakültesi, diş hekimliği fakültesi, sağlık bilimleri fakültesi deprem bölgesine giderek orada Sahra Hastanesi kurdular. Sahra Hastanesi kurarak oradaki depremde yaralanan insanlara çok acil bir şekilde müdahale etmeye başladık. Hemen akabinde İstanbul Aydın Üniversitesi'nin yine mühendislik fakültesinin oluşan bir ekiple bölgeye göndererek bölgedeki yıkılan binaların deprem çekince raporlarını, onların neden yıkıldığını, arazi incelemelerini yaptık. Bu çalışmalarda orada örnekler görüyoruz. Daha sonra bendenizin başkanlığında büyük bir ekiple araziye gittik. Bizzat deprem bölgesine giderek oradaki incelemelerde bulunduk. Oradaki valilerle, oradaki silahlı kuvvetler temsilcileriyle görüşerek ve yanımıza da ülkemizin en değerli bir vakıflarından Mavi Hilal Vakfı, şu anda onun başkanı da aramızda, birlikte hareket ederek deprem bölgesinde konteyner kentler kurmak üzere harekete geçtik. Ve yaklaşık 1500 konteynerden oluşacak 5 ayrı deprem bölgesinde konuşlandırılmak üzere konteyner kentleri kurmaya karar verdik. Ve bu konteyner kentlerin içerisinde kreşler, kütüphaneler, aşevleri, çocuk evleri ve bilişim destekleri oluşacak şekilde, ortasında da spor alanları oluşacak şekilde bir harekete geçtik. Dolayısıyla 1500 konteyner kenti bir Mavi Hilal Vakfımızla beraber hayata geçirmeye çalıştık. Şu anda görmüş olduğunuz resim benim için çok önemli. Özellikle bu resim çok önemli. Burası Türkiye'nin güneyinde çekilmiş bir resim. South of the Turkey. Biliyorsun Türkiye'de şu anda yaklaşık 4 milyon Suriyeli mülteci kardeşimiz var. 4 milyon Suriyeli mülteci kardeşimiz var. Ve bunlar daha ziyade Türkiye'nin güney bölgesinde yaşıyorlar. Onlar da depremden etkilendiler. Mavi Hilal Vakfımız da bu bölgede aşevleri oluşturduk. Seyyar aşevleri oluşturduk. Bakın orada benim konuştuğum Suriyeli bir genç, Suriyeli bir çocuk. Ben bunu şöyle paylaştım. Ne o konuştu, ne ben konuştum. Bakıştık sadece. Fakat o da beni anladı, ben de onu anladım. Ve çalışmalarımız böyle devam etti. Devam etti yine bölgedeki hastane çalışmalarımız. Yine bunlar deprem bölgesinde oluşturduğumuz konteyner kentlerdeki oradaki halkla, yes, please, because I explained the earthquake. Yes, Orada yine konteyner kentlerdeki halklarla buluşmamız, onları dinlememiz. Orada bu arada tabii psikoterapi ile ilgili onların azaltmak için psikologlar o bölgeye gönderdik. Oradaki insanlara yardımcı olabilmek için. Oradaki öğrencileri okullara yerleştirdik. Burada devlet çok büyük bir önemli rol üstlendi. Özellikle Yükseköğretim ve Milli Eğitim Bakanlığımız doğudaki bu çocukları batıdaki okullara yerleştirerek eğitimin kesintisiz devam etmesini sağladık. It's okay. Bu önemli. Yurt dışındaki öğrencileri de organize ederek, ki mesela bu Kanada örneğidir, Kanada'da bir örnektir. Oradaki öğrencileri organize ederek yurt dışından da yardımların gelmesini sağladık. Continue please. Evet, yoğun bir şekilde üniversitenin sosyal medya hesaplarında insanları yardıma çağırdık, kan vermeye çağırdık, birlik olmaya çağırdık. Farklı farklı herkesin bu alanda bir şey yapabileceğini hissettirmek, o duyarlılığı sağlamak için yoğun bir çaba gösterdik üniversitemizin sosyal medya hesaplarında. Bunlar onlardan birkaç örnekler. Geçelim lütfen. Evet, bu da şimdi it's okay. Ben özellikle doktorasını Endülüs konusunda yapmış bir akademisyenim. 992 yılında, miladi 992 yılında Kurduba'da doğmuş, 1035 yılında yine Kurduba'da ölmüş, Malaga'da yaşamış İbn-i Şüeyd isimli bir şahsiyeti inceledim. Defalarca Endülüs'e geldim. Ama her seferinde geldiğimde ilk günkü geldiğim heyecanını yine yaşıyorum ben Kordoba'da. Dolayısıyla barışın, güvenliğin ve akademik ittifakların yeri olacak olan Unimed, öncülük yapan Unimed'in bu çalışmalarda da öncülük yapmasını diliyorum. Dinlediğiniz için tekrar deprem konusunda, deprem anında Türkiye'ye vermiş olduğunuz desteklerden dolayı ülkem adına sizler vasıtasıyla sizlerin halkına ve sizlerin yöneticilerine şükranlarımı sunuyorum. İyi ki varsınız diyorum. Bu arada bir ilanım var. 2024 yılında Unimed'in genel kurulunu dün yapmış olduğumuz yönetim kurulunda almış olduğumuz karar gereği İstanbul Aydın Üniversitesi'nde, Türkiye'de, İstanbul'da yapacağız. Sizlere ev sahipliği yapmaktan şeref ve onur duyacağım. Hepiniz İstanbul'a bekliyorum. Hepinizi Allah'a emanet ediyorum.
Shukran, Dr. Aydin. You did some spoiler, to be honest, but it's okay because we are very happy to visit Istanbul next year. But this will be announced tomorrow. You don't know nothing about? Okay, we are perfectly on time, but we have to run as well. I invite my Francisco, allow me to say my favorite president, Juan Rayon Gonzalez, the president of Erasmus Student Network. Juan? I suppose that you have a presentation? Okay. Okay, as you know, let me introduce Juan. As you know, we have a very important partnership with the Erasmus Student Network. They are opening the door of their own organization to Southern Mediterranean Students Organization, and we are very happy about that. And we support them in all these activities. And jointly, we did last year the first Mediterranean Student Summit that was held at the University of Barcelona. Was a pilot initiative, and now we are planning the second one. And I give the floor to Juan to explain us what we did and these experiences.
Grazie mille. Yes, I think you can hear me. Thank you very much, Marcelo. Well, for me, it's a fantastic honor, first of all, to be in a Unimed assembly. It will be my last one, probably, as president, so it's a very emotional moment. Thank you very much for that. And also, as an alumnus from University of Granada, it's always a fantastic honor to come back to the city who has introduced me to the world of student internationalization. This is where I joined ESN, and I have to thank especially Dorothy for all the work that the university does, especially I would say here in the Unimed Assembly, I want to refer to the work the university does with Mediterranean students, with all those mobilities coming from, like in the international create mobility strand of Erasmus+. I had the opportunity as a local ESM volunteer here to support many of those students coming from, of course, Turkey, but also Palestine, Morocco, Algeria, and many others, and I couldn't think of a better place to come back and discuss this initiative, the first Mediterranean Student Summit that I think had been in the works for some years, right, Marcelo? This is an initiative that ESN and Unimed have been trying to do, and last year we finally managed to do it, and this could only happen also with the support of the University of Barcelona. I think we have Vice Rector Raúl around there, so thank you so much also to the University of Barcelona who made it possible, also a fantastic Mediterranean city, to gather students from both shores and discuss about internationalization. So I want to start with the why, the reason behind this initiative. Why did we decide to have such a summit? We thought, both organizations, that it was really important to create a common space for dialogue between students, just like we have this space with the Assembly, for dialogue between academics, university leadership. We thought there was a clear need for an equivalent space for students from the network. And this is exactly what we did. We created a space to raise awareness about existing opportunities. We wanted students to know more about the different opportunities that universities provide for internationalization, mobility, but even beyond mobility, all those societal opportunities that we have been discussing before. Also to foster student engagement, and this is especially important in the Mediterranean context, to make sure that we empower students mainly from the South Mediterranean, but also from the North Mediterranean, to become active members of their academic communities, to have that leading role, to work with US leadership to improve the quality of your education, and to foster internationalization in general through student involvement, which we believe, beyond international curricula, student mobility is also a fundamental part of internationalization. Vibrant student communities that help, to create connections across borders. So basically, this was also a unique opportunity to combine the data that both Unimed and ESN have been gathering in the last few years. Many of you remember the report done by Unimed for the Union for the Mediterranean, in which it's a very big data collection from students from the Mediterranean. And also ESN, we have been working with the student data from the South Mediterranean for some years, right? And we will continue to do this now in this edition of the ESN survey. But we wanted to move from data collection to also data validation through student engagement. So this is what we also did through the summer, to take what we knew about the experience of students and put it for a discussion with representatives from many of your universities. We had around 20 participants, I think I didn't say it before, and this was only possible also thanks to the support of many universities who sponsor their participation. Our idea is that we will turn this event into a driving force for the student-focused internationalization, and also, and this is really, really important, that the Student Summit will go beyond a one-off event. So it's not only about the event itself, it's about how the event helps to kickstart connections and collaborations that last throughout the year. Right? It's a conversation starter that hopefully will guide conversations during the whole academic year, and this is why also we are thinking about having it earlier. Even in the academic year, we're thinking about September for the next edition. When it comes to the first edition, the technicalities, just to tell you a bit about the logistics, it was hosted by the University of Barcelona, as I said, around 20% participants with a balanced participation between Europe and South Mediterranean. It is important to highlight, and also thanks to the Deputy Secretary General for saying it, that due to visa-related challenges, many students couldn't make it. And this was very discouraging for us, to be honest. It really shows that this issue needs to continue on the agenda. We need to continue talking about this, because even if there is a directive from the European Union that clearly establishes how students can access these visas, this is not being respected by member states. So it's really important to highlight this, because this is really hampering academic collaboration in the Mediterranean. Then when it comes to the agenda, we had several objectives. The first one was to build a community between the students, to create that rapport, and also, to use non-formal education that we try to work with in ESN as a student organization to really create interaction and to give students the leading voice. We also provided background information. We wanted the students to know about Unimed, about ESN, about Erasmus, about UFM, about the different, let's say, opportunities and the background that was making possible the organization of the event. We had an institutional dialogue with the Secretary General of UFM, and thank you so much also for that, because I think it was a fantastic experience for the participants. And more importantly even, we had brainstormings about challenges and ideas to tackle these challenges. So we really want to show the students that they could actually make a change in their academic life. A real highlight of the event was this policy dialogue with Secretary General, with Mr. Kamel. It was a really good experience. It's the feedback we got from participants. We discussed a range of topics, many of them more connected to academic experience, internationalization, but also broader societal challenges that the region faces. It was a very open and frank debate, and definitely an enjoyable experience. And this is something that hopefully we can replicate going forward. Of course, we are not always lucky to have the Secretary General, but we can do this also with EU delegations, university leadership, because it's really important that the students see that they can have that direct connection with decision makers and with people who can actually take these kind of decisions forward. We try to combine this dialogue with a debrief so students can reflect a bit on how these kind of conversations can actually be a force of change, right? And I think this was a very good introduction to the second part of our summit, in which we move to the creation of proposals. So after the dialogue, we had a debriefing, in which we also tried to get the students into this inspirational role of what would they do if they could also get involved in this kind of international organizations. Then we tried to work on this definition of what we like to call, let me see, I'm also having these little technical issues, this common Mediterranean identity that for us is really important, right? Because we need to create a sense of belonging to foster participation. There's no participation without feeling of belonging, because if the students they don't feel that they are part of the same community, they will never feel the urgency to participate. And we asked them to define what this Mediterranean generation was all about for them. And they came up with 3 concepts. We used this snowball methodology, as we like to call it. They came up with 3 concepts: integration, engagement, and advocacy. And they believe that the Mediterranean generations are represented by these 3 concepts that are all about bringing people together, about mobilizing around certain common priorities, and also about advocating together for a better society and for a better world. So we're really happy, I have to say, with this definition that can serve as a base for future conversations. Then we discussed a number of internationalization-related challenges. So we really tried to get their perspectives on what needs to be improved in the internationalization field. There was a range of topics that were discussed. We indeed talk a lot about the visas, because there was an experience that the students had to go through, and they had really strong opinions about it, but also about the importance of information, communication, revisiting, rethinking some of the ways in which we communicate about these opportunities and about how we can make sure that more people learn about them in both shores of the Mediterranean. Also, the importance of creating this internationalization culture that I think was really well described by the rector today, about how internationalization needs to move to a broad priority that defines all the actions of higher education institutions. So this is something that the students agree with. They really thought that this was a really positive change that needs to be implemented across institutions. And then also the importance of breaking those barriers related to prejudice that also were mentioned by the president of Unimed before in his intervention. So based on those challenges, we thought about the recommendations and ideas that we had to tackle them. What can we do together? What can we do working with our academic communities, with our institutions to, put together recommendations that can advance our common agenda? We achieved these recommendations through a set of discussions in which students work together in groups, really tackling one by one and coming up with ideas that we believe can be quite implementable. And then these recommendations were discussed in the plenary, also with colleagues from Unimed, also from the European Investment Bank and the University of Barcelona. So we also had a really meaningful discussion about implementation of these ideas. The first recommendation related the access to information and how we can, instead of building new things completely from scratch, adapt existing platforms to support internationalization in the Mediterranean. How the Erasmus Plus program, many of the tools that are being created within that framework, other collaboration frameworks can be adapted to match the needs of students from both shores of the Mediterranean. Then we also got into discussions related to the Erasmus visa, so probably better implementation of existing policies in many cases, but real fast-track procedures that can truly facilitate the mobility of learners. And then something that is very close to our heart, as ESN, as you can imagine, which is the creation and development of student and alumni organizations in the South Mediterranean, especially. This is something that we're trying to contribute. In ESN, we now have our first candidate section in Jordan, and we hope to have many more in the next few years in the Mediterranean. And with that candidate section, I have to tell you that we are really seeing which kind of impact we can have. So hopefully many of your universities will have similar student associations, be it ESN, be it a different one, that will help you to develop those international strategies. And then also the importance of improving pre-departure and reintegration cycles in higher education institutions. So those who manage to go on mobility also can have a bigger impact within the institution by telling others about their experiences, creating small communities that foster internationalization at home, and many other related measures. What is the future of the summit? As Marcelo said, this is the first of many initiatives, we hope, and I'm already trying to convince Marcelo to invite me next year as a trainer, even if I'm not the president anymore. But we have some big ideas for the future of this summit. We want to make this summit a key platform for student engagement in the Mediterranean region with yearly editions, if possible, so then also the conclusions of those summits can feed into the discussions of the General Assembly. With a stronger stakeholder engagement, we already got a lot of stakeholder engagement with UFM, but we want to be even more ambitious and involve, if possible, why not, more the European Union. We want to involve more national and local governments, universities, so those conversations can be even more productive. And then to really make sure that we come out of those events with useful feedback and ideas on internationalization and academic life in general. And of course, these summits can be a force driving the creation of new student associations and student activities with an international dimension in the Mediterranean. So, well, I'm very surprised because I managed to do it on time, Marcelo, and considering how much I like to talk, that's not easy. But, well, we basically think that we have a tool with great potential here. To be honest, I'm really happy that we managed to organize the event. And I want to thank Unimed again, and Marcelo in particular, for pushing for this so strongly. It was a great pleasure to join forces, and to all the universities who believe in the project and managed to make it happen. So now, hopefully, we can continue working on this for the years to come and consolidate this fantastic initiative that I believe will also take Unimed collaboration to the next level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Juan. And as you said, this will be surely one of the big events of Unimed every year, jointly to the Unimed Assembly and the Unimed Week in Brussels. We need this Unimed Students event that is not Unimed, but is the Mediterranean Student Summit event, jointly with the ESN, and obviously, I hope with your contribution. Thanks again, Juan. I give now the floor to myself. I promise you that I will be very brief, and I promise you that I will use for myself the yellow and the red card is necessary. You receive from me, or you can do that, obviously, thanks, Abdelwed. You receive from me and from my colleagues thousands of emails per year, and I can risk you to be patient for less than 10 minutes to listen my very brief speech about Unimed plans in some way and Unimed activities. I don't go into details about Unimed projects and so on. This will be discussed during the assembly of tomorrow. But obviously there is some information I would like to share. First of all, obviously I need to thank the University of Granada, the president, and obviously our colleague Dorothy Kelly and all their team for the work that they did. I have to say, not only for the Unimed Assembly, but the work that you did with us in the last 20 years. You did a great job with us. Your commitment and support has been great for all of us, and I hope that this will continue with the new governance, surely. I would like also to express a special thanks to our president, Francisco Matebon. Over these years that have been challenging for all of us, you have always followed our work, guiding us with your careful and listening-oriented approach. You have had to, despite yourself, extend your mandate for a year, but you have never made us miss your attention. Thank you indeed for being a fellow traveler who was willing to share everything without ever imposing anything. I have to thank also our Secretary General for his message related to the importance of social science and humanities, which remain at the core of Unimed activities, of course, because for the activity that we did in the last years, in any case, we still know that we don't know very well each other. We need to continue to work on this, to improve the knowledge of our society and to improve the capacity of our university to investigate on this. I would like also to thank the Union for Mediterranean and especially the Ambassador Alvaro Albacete, not only for his intervention, but for the work that also the Higher Education Department of the UFM is doing with us, supporting us in our daily efforts. Last year, we worked together to ask for this ministerial conference, and now we, in some way at least, we succeeded to have this ministerial conference. Now we have to work together for an important result coming from this summit, not only about the final declaration, but obviously to have some concrete output at the end of this ministerial meeting. Your work is very important to all of us, and we will continue standing by your side. In the Assembly agenda, which reflects the wide range of initiatives and priorities that Unimed, through the efforts of its members, institutional partners, and its entire staff is carrying out, we mean to contribute to the final declaration of the Ministerial Conference. Another equally important contribution will come from the Student Summit, as Johan already mentioned, that will be organized at the second edition, as we already said, most probably in Morocco in beginning of September. However, we must also go further than the political dimension of the ministerial meeting. Indeed, we have also to state our reason for being together beyond the political initiatives, which are commendable, but not enough. The title of this assembly has changed from the previous one. For a few years, we have used the concept of moving from cooperation to integration. However, now we feel the need to back off in one direction, at the same time, to take a step forward. Boosting academic alliances for peace and security may somehow seems to be a back to basic step, continuing to revive the theme of peace and security as an old leitmotif. For years, we have approached the issue of security in the Mediterranean as a priority issue for Europe, implementing policies that were essentially serving our need for peace and security, but not those of our neighbors, of our sisters and brothers, forgetting that security and peace are worldwide demands having no border or barriers. Crisis, conflict, and tension that still exist today in some countries in the Mediterranean area, like Syria, Libya, Palestine, which is still without a reliable way out, and with a strong responsibility of the absence of a real foreign policies of the European Union, are further fueled and enhanced by other international crises that has been mentioned. The war in Europe, the fleeing of Afghanistan, the tension in sub-Saharan region, Yemen, and I'm again happy to have with us the president of University of Aden, but also we have with us the Minister of Higher Education of Yemen, and welcome at the Unimed event, and much more. This is then our step forward, to work together, to work all together to propose academic alliances as a response to the suffering that all these crises entail, to ensure for our young people, our students, our children, a space of dialogue and exchange which is an antidote, as has been said, to all forms of violence and oppression. In recent weeks, a major tragedy has shaken Italy and Europe. Unfortunately, for an unemptying time, another tragedy took place in a sea of indifference, and many migrants have died. So many. Too many children have died. In the indifference and inability of a government, I mean the Italian government, to feel even a little grief, as well as not being able to prevent this tragedy. There is no more time left. The internationalization of university systems cannot be a concept for its own sake, a task to be fulfilled, a way to prove one's performance, to get into an international ranking. The values we all express together here in Unimed are those of solidarity, openness, sharing. We will encourage you to do more, to welcome migrants and refugees to your universities, to strengthen the role of students and students' organizations, to build networks of dialogues and confrontation that go beyond political barriers, to provide opportunities for researchers to work together, to create inclusive environment open to dialogue and exchange. We cannot longer bear indifference. Your task and ours should be to educate people to tolerance, to solidarity, and to let them figure that everyone, even being different from us, is equal to us. And most of all, to shake through our example, through our work, politics, and especially bad politics. Since I have been elected director in 2008 and later in 2011 with the extension of my delegation of authority, an important work of strengthening the network has been accomplished. A growth that we have been able to carry out thanks to all our associates and partners, thanks to the extraordinary human and professional commitment of our collaborators, all of them from the first to last. However, it is still not enough. There is a long way to go. We now have to project Unimed into an even more intense future, starting from the value that I expressed earlier. We have worked in this last decade a lot on capacity building activities in the dialogue with European Commission institutions. The next step must be to expand our network to neighboring countries, to strengthen the activities of our sub-networks, to promote initiative and strengthen the dialogue with our members in each country, to project Unimed, to promote joint courses and research projects, to put our university students at the center of our actions. We have many challenges to face on many common themes and priorities: climate change, environment, migration, university governance, digital education, employability, and much more. We have to improve the network with more members, but also enlarge the geographical scope of our association. More members from Western Balkan, from Middle East and the Gulf, from sub-Saharan region countries, and surely to enlarge the European participation in Unimed. To reinforce the membership will allow us to serve better our members. However, the most important commitment is to strengthen day after day the reason for our being together as an antidote to barbarism and for a Mediterranean that can finally turn into an open and inclusive area. Let's stop more tragedies. Let's end the indifference. Let's affirm the freedom of all women and men. Let's promote the Mediterranean inclusive, open, and dynamic citizenship. We will work to always provide new opportunities for our members, but also to promote a positive cultural message from the Mediterranean. We made a documentary to tell the story of some refugee students in our universities, in Sapienza, the University of Barcelona in particular. And we would like to project this in your university for your students in order to promote a debate on the importance of hospitality. We designed a series of documentaries to promote the role of women in our communities, and we will make a series of podcasts about the importance of intangible cultural heritage. We will continue to cooperate with several film festivals in order to promote the Mediterranean culture. Thus, we need a positive tale of Mediterranean, of our culture, of our wealth. The strengthening of our network and the promotion of cultural cooperation will therefore be the objective of the coming years, a freestanding ability to help universities and their students to support the efforts for the renewal of the university system, to offer new growth opportunities to our young people and the academic community. With your help and your ideas, we can do it. And we will do it with passion. We owe it to the thousands of dead ones in the Mediterranean. We owe it to all the women and men who are committed to saving lives every day. Imagining the Mediterranean as a source of life and progress is not a dream. It's a possibility. It's up to us. It depends on what we will be able to do. Viva il Mediterraneo. Viva Unimed. Okay, and now some logistic information, and we are perfectly on time. We have to leave the Aula Magna now. We will move in the afternoon after the lunch in 2 different rooms, A1, A2, where we will have parallel session, as you can see in the program. Grazie Arianna. Okay. Perfect. These are the information about the parallel session in room A1 from 2:30 until 3:45. We will have green innovation and employability in the Mediterranean region. In A2, Mediterranean digital and open education proposal for the Ministerial Conference declaration. After that, other 2 parallel sessions on the Horizon Europe program and also in the Erasmus Plus program. And the other one, the A2, the global dimension of European University Alliances. In the program, you have all the information, speakers, and so on. I invite you to follow both of them. Some information for tonight, just in case you missed it. At 7, we hope to finish on time at 5 p.m. You will have some hour to relax, to do a little walk in the city. But at 7, we have to be at the Collegio Maximo de Cartuja. You have to arrive there with your own capacity, and we have a concert. At 8, we have a gala dinner, and then there will be a pickup offered by the University of Granada to come back to the city center. And enjoy your lunch and networking. Thank you very much.